Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Rapid Recap here at Inside Nebraska. As always, he's Greg Smith and I'm Zack Carpenter. And first off, to get out of the way, I did not wear Michigan blue on purpose.
I wasn't going to call you out, but...
I didn't realize it until, honestly, the fourth quarter probably, when I was walking down to the press box after a 45-7 Michigan.
Else.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I thought. And going to start off with this. Something I didn't tell you beforehand, but as I'm walking down to the press box after 45-7 Michigan win, I heard a fan talking to his family saying, I don't know how you can be Tom Osborne and watch that. Like, how can you sit there and watch that after that shellacking, essentially? But he used those words. Greg, take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Osborne watched Scott Frost get his tail kicked for 5 years, so I'm sure he's used to that and can see that. If he could stomach it with his boy Scott Frost, he can stomach it now. I don't know.
Right.
It's tough. Like, I feel like this is one of those things, and I'm not purposely being contrarian, I swear, but I feel like differently than a lot of people do coming out of this game. That is not to say that it's a positive in any stretch of the imagination. Kind of like Matt Rhule said, is that, you learn a lot from a game like this, but it sucks. And then he said, excuse my language.
Yeah, they said it stunk.
Stunk. I think that's like the harshest language we've heard him use at any of these press conferences, at least. We've heard some salty language in those videos and stuff. But that being said, like, I think that there are things that you just want to take away from this game, watch the tape, and then be done with it and get on to Illinois. I don't know, and I said this, I forget, I think it was maybe Monday's Rapid Recap when we were together, when I said, hey, I don't think that this game is actually that much of a barometer, because Nebraska is not in the place to have a barometer against the number 2 team in the country. Like, I find that to be weird that we have talked so much about that this week, and I feel like what happened in the game in a lot of ways lived up to what kind of I thought going in about that portion of it. But again, you just don't want it to see it to be that non-competitive.
And I completely disagreed with the fact that this should not be looked at as a barometer game, whether or not it's light years away from being in that Michigan status, which we thought it was coming into the game, but it was setting up to be that sort of stacking up against a Michigan game. If that's the blueprint you want, if that's what you eventually want your team to become, this was a barometer to see how far away you are from that program. And we thought it would be a long way away, and it is a long way away. We just got to see it in front of our eyes on Saturday, today. And I mean, again, like you said, it's not much of a surprise, but just to see it actually happen is different from an entire week leading up to it of saying, yeah, it's probably going to be a beatdown, but you want to see how they come out and compete against a team of that caliber.
Yeah, and it's tough because it's so weird because it's not apples to apples to me, where you're like, yeah, it's a barometer. You do want to see, I do agree with that. You do want to see where the gap is and like how far you.
And that's all I meant by barometer,
but,
when I look at it.
Like, it's tough because and it's funny because, man, where does the time go kind of situation. Jim Harbaugh's been there 9 years now. Matt Rhule hasn't even had 9 games at Nebraska, right? So like it's a real interesting thing to kind of look at and compare and contrast. But you're right. I mean, there's a long way to go, and I think it's funny. I don't remember if I said it to you or Steve Mark in the press box about like if Nebraska's at the ground floor of building this thing, like this is Jim Harbaugh's like the 3.0 version of what they're trying to build, and it definitely looked like that out there on the field. It's just tough. And one point too that I want to make, thinking about kind of where the teams are and what we saw out there today. Yes, Michigan kind of beat down Nebraska today and ran away with this thing, but it wasn't just like the methodical, slow, like pounding them. Michigan's they've got some dudes, man.
They've recruited really well.
Yes, they've got some guys that made a lot of really nice plays. Like even the one that, and I don't want to go play by play on some of these and make people relive them, but the J.J. McCarthy throw, he's rolling to, it would have been his left, and then he throws it across his body to the guy in the back of the end zone who just casually makes that tiptoe catch at the back of the end zone. Like plays like that are
the end of the half.
They just make things like that look routine. They have really, really talented players, and Nebraska's just not there yet.
Unfortunately for the Huskers, I didn't know which J.J. McCarthy rollout touchdown in the back of the end zone you were talking about, whether it was on the opening drive or the last drive of the first half.
Now, listen, that was not as much him as it was the receiver.
Right, Roman Wilson in the back.
Wilson made a terrific play on that.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about this wanting to be a boxing fight in the ring, like we talked about all week, and they made Coach Satterfield made a Rocky reference, a Philadelphia Eagles reference earlier in the week. Well, Greg, I don't know if you've seen the Rocky series, whether or not you have or haven't. Famous line from Rocky is, it's not about how hard you get hit, it's not about whether you can get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit, get up, and keep moving forward. It's like 80% of the line right there. So that's sort of going to be Matt Rhule's message as they get ready for Illinois on Friday. I mean, he said pretty much like, he was asked at the press conference post-game, what do you need to do to close the gap between you and Michigan? And he said, I don't know. They're the number 2 team in the country. We're not at that level right now. And he said, we're going to find out about this team against Illinois on Friday. Sort of, he didn't want to flush it. He said we need to identify what happened, why it happened, and then come back and find out about himself as a coach and this team on Friday against Illinois.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I think that is 100% correct, because what it starts to set up now, right? And it's funny because these week-to-week situations where each week in these games is their own kind of big storyline, right? Where this week was a little bit of that barometer, see how close or how far they are from Michigan. Next week is how they bounce back and can play kind of a like opponent, but also in a much more challenging environment, but in a different way, right? Man, how many people do you think will be there in Champaign on Friday night?
Completely different then.
It's going to be totally different. So you got to bring your own juice, your own energy. That's going to be tough, and it's also going to be, I think, a thing this week that we'll end up talking about, the injury situation, right?
Yeah.
Huskers are banged up. We were kind of noting as they were walking off the field, the amount of guys that you saw on crutches or kind of hobbled. That'll be something to keep an eye on, just like overall team health right now, because it does feel like they've been taxed kind of injury-wise early on in the year.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Reimer was slated to potentially play in this game, and then he left. He was with the team and left from the team hotel to go to a hospital to get treated. Deshaun Singleton, which was a major underlying factor in this game, getting hurt on the second play of the game. And you see Kobe Bretz comes in. There were 2 plays that he missed on those first 2 drives right after Singleton got hurt. Isaac Gifford had a line on a couple guys. It was just missed tackles, and you have Luke Reimer and Deshaun Singleton, who are 2 of your best 3 tacklers, and especially in the open field, on that defense, and we saw the result of that. Obviously, that's not gonna close the gap between 45 to 7, but it would have made a difference. Yeah. And then, like you said, BYOJ, bring your own juice against Illinois next week, and I feel like I convinced you a little bit on the barometer angle, just from my definition of barometer meant.
Your definition of barometer, I'm a lot closer to than what a lot of people are saying during the week. I totally get what you mean. See what that gap is. We just, on the rest of it, we'll see. But it's interesting because you do need to be able to see if that is the program that you're trying to go after, and go after strong. You know what I mean? Trying to be like emulate or be closer to and build your program in that fashion, then yes, I understand that. But there's a long way to go. But there are also, thankfully, that's the toughest team they're going to play all year. And it's really not close. And so the rest of the season, I think, will be a different type of test to see how they can play better against like opponents, closer to what we saw early in the season or in the first couple games in the season versus what we saw today. I don't think all hope is lost. I know it happens in these situations, and it's on the insiders board right now. There's a thread. Will we win another game this year? I will say emphatically yes, they're going to win another game this year.
On the insiders board and other message boards, after the first week of a loss to Minnesota and Colorado beating TCU, the immediate aftermath was would you trade Deion for Rhule right now, or Rhule for Deion Sanders right now? So overreaction runs rampant around here. I overreact a lot. I mean, that's kind of what we do sometimes.
That's what people do in this industry,
exactly.
And in the fan business, right?
Exactly. Well, hey, Victory Sunday, we overreact in a good way, and Defeat Sunday, whatever you want to call it, we overreact in a negative way. But last thing to hit on was just was Rhule giving an anecdote about 2017, his first year at Baylor, losing at number 14 Oklahoma State. They got trounced 59-16, and he said that he told Charlie Brewer and the rest of his team, his quarterback, we're going to be back here next year. We're going to be back here in 2 years, and we're going to beat them. And they did beat Oklahoma State. The next year, they won at Oklahoma State. 2 years ago, they turned the tables and won by 18 points. 2 years later, different conversation because Oklahoma State was not at that same national contending level that Michigan is. But the point is still valid, and you're going to see what you have against Illinois, because that game, I think we all chalked it up as most likely a loss, most of us, I think.
Because of where it was at.
Yep, where it was at, the night, the environment, Illinois, after coming in here and beating them so handedly last year.
We thought they'd be a little better.
Yeah, we thought, that game has become a lot more winnable in my mind. I mean, I don't know what the final score was, but I know they were down 30-13 against Purdue in the third, fourth quarter. But Nebraska has a lot of games on the schedule that they can win. I mean, Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue, Michigan State.
Who's going to be – we'll get there. That one's going to be interesting. They could all be looking ahead to something else by the time they get to Michigan State.
Yeah, the rest of the schedule is a lot easier than what you had against Michigan. I think it was survival against Michigan, and I mean –
I think we saw that from everyone. I think that was a real vibe that we got today. Just survive, and whether or not people will admit it or not, it feels like that's kind of what crept into it.
Yeah, you would have hoped that they would have competed a little more, maybe kept it close into the second half, but they didn't. And now they're going to have to flush it. We're going to flush it right here. We have more analysis on the Inside Nebraska YouTube page and InsideNebraska.com. Encourage you to check our site out and to like this video. Subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel so you can get these videos dropped directly into your feed. We'll be back out here again next week as we preview Illinois and analyze the Michigan game afterwards. So for Greg Smith, I'm Zack Carpenter, and we'll catch you guys again next time.